United States today, we have a growing problem with addictions, opioids, alcohol, etc. And we see this playing out. Well, in the second half of the show, we're going to talk about a center in Oregon that's actually doing something positive about this, and yet they're under attack by the county government. We're going to talk about what Pacific Justice Institute is doing to save this wonderful center from being shut down unfairly and unjustly. But in the first half, I want to talk a little broader about something that's really of serious importance. It's related to opioids and alcohol, et cetera, but it's the actual shrinking of society in terms of our mortality, and where the average lifespan is actually shrinking in our society. I mean, so the issues we're dealing with today, and we are not minor; they're major. Homelessness is skyrocketing, particularly on the West Coast, on levels that we never would have dreamed or imagined just 5, 10, 20 years ago. Why do we have this problem, and what we can do about it is what I want to address on this show with someone who wrote a fantastic article, Jim Breslo. He's an attorney and host of the Hidden Truths show, and I want him to help address these issues as he did in the article. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Now, multiple studies, including from the National Center of Health Statistics, show that the decline is a result of so-called deaths of despair. Deaths of despair. What is this so-called deaths of despair?
Yeah, so it's really important to understand the causes of things, because people like to politicize things and come up with things to support their own ideology. This reduction in the life expectancy is stunning. For the first time in 100 years, it's going down, and you wonder what could possibly be going on with all these medical advancements that we have and improved safety. And, America is the best economy in the world, and yet people are dying younger. Some would like it to say that, that's a bad healthcare system. Well, that's not true. In fact, we've got probably the best healthcare system in the world.
Right.
The truth is, and this is borne out, this is really not in dispute. Anybody who researches it at all will see that it is these deaths of despair. So it's people dying at a young age that is bringing down the overall life expectancy. So we're talking about deaths in people's 20s and their 30s and their 40s. And according to these studies, not surprisingly, it's drug overdoses, it's alcohol abuse, obesity leading to liver diseases, it's increased suicides, it's increased gun violence, some of these mass shootings that you're seeing as a result of mental illness and so on. So you've got all of these things factoring in these deaths at a young age, deaths of despair, bringing down the overall age.
So we see an increase in homelessness, mental health problems, gun violence, suicide. Why? The big question is, why are we seeing such increases? Where's this coming from, Jim?
Well, I argue in the article, and granted, it's just a theory, but that it is the breakdown of the nuclear family. That is what, when children are being raised in broken homes, they are much more likely to suffer issues such as mental illness. And mental illness includes depression, it includes leading to things like obesity, leading to drug abuse. And there's plenty of studies out there that show that the healthiest environment for a child to be raised in is the traditional nuclear family, a loving father and a loving mother. And when you break that down, you're going to lead to much more mental health issues. And if you look at the studies, it shows that, yes, in fact, the nuclear family has broken down significantly over the past 30 to 40 years.
Now, I understand there was a study out of from the University of Texas psychology department. A professor there came out with a very thorough study analyzing children who came from traditional families with a mom and a dad, and those that had some other kind of family makeup. And yet the study validated just what you said. I mean, it said kids who come from a home with a mom and a dad, stable home, that they have much lower suicide rate, less drug addiction, less teenage pregnancy, more likely to graduate from high school, more likely to go to college. I mean, it's just very, very positive. Make better grades, less likely to have issues of depression. less likely to be in drugs. I mean, so it was very statistical. I know many people from the radical left were just screaming and yelling, this is biased, it's bigoted, its intention is to go after, to attack those with different families and not be creative and accepting to be equal value and worth of all different kinds of families. And then the University of Texas and their psychology department did a re-examination, and they said, no, everything matches up. Peer review validates exactly what they've come down with. So what you said is not something that's just sort of from out of the sky. I mean, it is backed up with studies, credible studies that clearly say this is true. Give us some examples of the breakdown of the nuclear family. Let's dig a little deeper, though. Why do we have this breakdown? What are some examples?
Well, you have a number of causes of it. You've got inner city issues. You've got unwed pregnancies in inner cities. You've got. I even saw a very interesting article about the fact that abortion rights have caused the breakdown of the family, because it used to be that if a woman got pregnant, she had no choice but to have the child, and therefore the father of the child felt obligated to be with that woman and marry that woman. Today, when a woman is free to choose whether to have the child or not, men equally feel that they've got the right to choose whether or not to marry this person and live together with this person. So that's another example of it. I believe that LGBT activism has been a significant cause, because for them, it's all about born this way. And you have to believe that you're born this way in order for them to be accepted. And also that it's perfectly equally good to be raised by a single mother or two mothers, a single father or two fathers, or one of any of those. So you have to believe that there's no benefit to biological father and biological mother in order to buy into this LGBT position. And it's just denying a truism that everyone knows. Inherently, we know this. There's been lots of studies going way back about the importance of a father and a mother, but it's just not politically correct to say it anymore.
Right. And the people who are paying the price for this are the most vulnerable. It's the children, babies, infants, toddlers, children, kids growing up. They're the ones being massively shortchanged. I don't in any way challenge the intentions of someone wanting an alternative family, a couple. They may genuinely, love each other. They may really genuinely want to love a child. They may really honestly believe and think that what they're doing is great and the best for this child. Just because they believe it and have those feelings doesn't make it true, and doesn't in any way change the statistics and the impact that these children are having to go through. And I think it takes a lot of boldness and courage for us to speak up for those children and look at the stats in our society to see what's taking place and what's happening all around us. It's interesting. I noticed a major star in receiving an award in Hollywood recently openly cited their decision to have an abortion as key to their success in Hollywood and getting their award. And it really breaks my heart when our society is so narcissistic that we don't even think about the impact our decisions have on others, mentally, emotionally, and then also, as you mentioned earlier, how we have fathers today, not just saying have an abortion, encouraging it, but then if the mother has a child, the father's saying, well, I have no responsibility to father that child or to come alongside that child or to mentor that child because I wasn't in favor of her having the child. And it's a total narcissistic, in my opinion, attitude, not being willing to be responsible for our actions, and the children are clearly paying the price. What say you?
Yeah, well, what I see is politics hijacking these very important medical associations like the American Academy of Pediatricians. You can't trust the papers that are coming out of these groups. They have been hijacked by LGBT activists, and there was recent guidance that came out about a year ago regarding children who suffer from gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a mental health issue.
Right.
But this paper came out and basically said that if your 5-year-old boy comes to you and says that he is actually a girl and is persistent in that over the course of about a year, that the best thing to do is to give that boy a girl name and put girl clothes on him. Otherwise, he's going to suffer from further mental abuse. And that is just absolutely dead wrong based on the science. And I did the deep dive on my Hidden Truth Show podcast. We did literally 3 months of interviews solely about the issue of transgender and what the cause of it is, et cetera. It's rooted in gender dysphoria, which is on the spectrum of a mental disorder. But the American Academy of Pediatricians, bending to the will of the LGBT community, is teaching parents that you should put a dress on that child. And I'll mention another celebrity, flat out Charlize Theron. Her 3-year-old boy said that he's a girl. She followed the so-called advice of the American Academy of Pediatricians and turned her boy into a girl. And I think the child's now about 9 years old, living as a girl. That's absolutely the wrong thing to do. All scientists who really understand this know that that's the wrong thing to do. And really, early childhood trauma is the most likely cause of gender dysphoria.
Yes.
So trauma is causing gender dysphoria, which is causing transgender and gay.
Yes.
And, and we've got great treatments for trauma now. You know, the soldiers coming back with PTSD from the war, we've got amazing new therapies for them. That's the same type of trauma that children suffer. It can be dealt with the proper treatment.
Yes, and what you said is absolutely correct. I've read studies that show the clear correlative impact that absence of a father or a father giving the wrong lack of bonding with the child or not a feminine affirmation of the daughter. Then you have sexual child abuse as a second factor, and some other issues that come into play. And these are, and over 70% of the children, if left alone, studies show, left alone at elementary school level, will work through this disorder and not have it anymore by the time they graduate from high school. And yet, if they do have this condition, the studies show that they will not live to see their 30th birthday because of suicide. And it's not because society doesn't accept them, because the suicide rate is just as high in LGBT communities in San Francisco as it is in other parts of the country. So the studies, the stats clearly show the harm, that clearly shows the causation and what needs to be done responsibly. Jim, we're running out of time. I want to thank you for the work that you're doing. Once again, if people want more information on this, I encourage them to go check out the Hidden Truth Show at your website, and that is
the hiddentruthshow.com.
Okay.
Or wherever they listen to podcasts.
Okay, great. At the hiddentruthshow.com. hiddentruthshow.com. Jim, thank you again for the work that you're doing, and hopefully in the end, truth will prevail and our children will be protected.
Thanks for your good work.
Given the choice of obeying God or the government, I believe Christians will obey God, even if there is hell to pay.
Since the earliest days of our nation, America has stood for religious freedom. And after our independence was won, the crafters of America's Constitution enshrined religious liberty as the first of our American freedoms.
These are our blood-bought freedoms that we get to own and operate and defend in this nation as Americans. We're not going to surrender this. We are going to fight for what's right.
So I think it's imperative for our testimony,
Right.
to show we really do love, we really do care, we see what's going to happen.
Bloody violence breaking out after Antifa protesters storm a Patriot prayer rally.
Do you think religious institutions like colleges, churches, charities, should they lose their tax-exempt status if they oppose same-sex marriage?
Yes.
Parents across the state are keeping their kids home from school today. They say the new sex ed program is too inappropriate, adding the curriculum sexualizes children as young as kindergarten age.
I realize my child and every child is not safe in these public schools.
A lot of graphic information that was confusing.
Tells little boys it's perfectly normal to masturbate.
Choose their gender. That's our children. And we have parent groups fighting this.
We were raided.
Approximately 16 California Highway Patrol officers armed with 2 canine units.
The real bottom line motivation for this, we've discovered, is the fact that the Department of Social Services and those who are behind this raid were actually wanting to shut this school down because they knew it was teaching from a Christian biblical worldview.
I was stripped of chaplaincy, of being a volunteer, of being able to teach the Bible study.
So what had Artis done that was so egregious? She had had a conversation with another resident of the home about the afterlife.
I was at school one day and they were talking about sex education and how it was okay to have sex with the same marriage. And I then stood up and I said, no, that is not okay. And then I got kicked out of class.
And we were able to draft a legal letter, memo, and sent it off to the principal.
So now if I talk about God at school, I don't get in trouble.
The Supreme Court has ruled the Peace Cross can stay right where it is on public land.
The court said that, if they were to remove street signs and crosses like this, war memorials, just because of the fact that some see it in a religious context, that would actually violate the Establishment Clause by being state hostility to religion.
As soon as we started the church, the neighbors looked at you a little funny, and all of a sudden we find ourselves embroiled in a lawsuit.
An atheist threatened to sue our HOA because we use the Sunday morning facility.
In the settlement, we got it squared away that we could meet on Sunday mornings, that we would not be discriminated against.
The administration escorted me off campus with 2 police officers.
And the arbitrator overruled the school and said, nope, this is not worthy of termination.
And I was granted my job back. So I'm very grateful to PJI. They really stand for justice.
Drag Queen Story Hour drew hundreds of people to the South Hill Library. The man who was arrested is a local pastor who wanted to preach at Saturday's protest.
So you're going to arrest me for standing on a public parking lot?
Now, he didn't threaten anyone, had no weapons, wasn't screaming in people's faces.
We just wanted to be a voice, for God, and just to be a light and a salt for those children.
The Pacific Justice Institute is absolutely doing great work.
This organization is a fighting organization. You help it, you're the same as the fighter.
I am so grateful. The Pacific Justice Institute, please support them. They are worth every penny.
It didn't cost us anything.
We would have drowned in legal fees. We would have been no more instantly.
I'm super grateful for PJI. They were a godsend.
Pacific Justice Institute as an organization is wholly committed, fully committed to doing the right thing, to being something good.
And folks, if you'd like to become a part of the Pacific Justice Institute ministry, it's really easy to do. Just go to our website, which is pacificjustice.org, pacificjustice.org. And there we've got some great stuff there for you. First, you can sign up to be a regular part of our team. Actually, support the work of Pacific Justice. We don't get any money from the government. George Soros, just for some reason, isn't a fan of ours. We don't get money from these established institutions that don't agree with a biblical worldview. So go to our website and become a part of our teams. Moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, that's our base, and we really appreciate that. But also we got some great resources, too, in terms of updates. We have a Legal Insider newsletter. It's very informative. It's very empowering, and I encourage you to sign up to get that. It's just once a week. It's short. It's something that you can pray over and give us prayer support for that week. They're very timely. And then also we have other great resources as well to take advantage of. Opt-out forms for all 50 states to protect your kids in public schools, 12 steps to protect your children from social workers, taking your kids. That's a real problem in America that we're dealing with, and as well as other resources I know you'll find very helpful. Once again, that's pacificjustice.org, pacificjustice.org. Now, we have with us on the line the attorney for the Pacific Justice Institute, who heads up our Oregon office there in Salem. We have with us Ray Hacke. Ray, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, Brad.
Now, Ray, you handle a lot of cases up there. Oregon is keeping you very busy. And we at Pacific Justice Institute know that. That's why we have an office there. We understand that there is a case matter up there. I understand there's an institution up there in Oregon, Northwest Bible Training Center outside of Portland, that's really doing some great work, but yet they're having some problems. First, tell us about Northwest Bible Training Center. What do they do?
Well, NWBTC is a Bible-based ministry devoted to helping drug and alcohol addicts break free from their addictions. The center is currently operating on farmland in rural Clackamas County, which is near Portland, like you said. The people in the center's program live there for roughly 8 months to a year. They spend 5.5 hours a day in Bible study, and the rest of the time doing chores and basically just living by a rigid daily schedule. The program helps them become not only responsible adults, but disciplined followers of Christ.
Yeah, Ray, this sounds great. I mean, we just heard from the earlier guest how we have a problem with drug abuse, alcohol abuse. The government's not solving the problem. This kind of an institution is doing good work, what we need right here, right now. It's very timely, and it's serving the community. So what is the actual success rate, though, involved in helping people overcome addiction? That's really the real bottom line that I know a lot of people are wondering about.
Well, it's actually pretty high. Of the graduates that the center hears back from, about 87% are doing well.
87%?
Yeah.
That is an incredibly high success rate, much higher than many public government-funded programs, I know. So that's incredible. I mean, so they're actually doing this work, and the community is giving them some pushback, right?
Well, it's not so much the community; it's the county itself. The center has been trying to actively been trying to correct some mistakes it made with regard to getting certain permits to make changes to the property, but the county won't let them.
The county won't let them. I mean, my understanding they're in a rural Clackamas County. Okay, there's no traffic parking issues here. It was in Portland and before and now it is, had to move. Why did it have to move? Why did it have to move to this rural location to begin with?
Well, the Bible talks about resisting temptation. When the center was in Portland, temptation came to the center's doorstep. A bar and a marijuana dispensary opened right nearby. That greatly increased the potential for relapses. The center wanted to get as far away as possible from temptation. So it purchased roughly 8 acres of farmland in nearby Clackamas County in August 2018. They've been there ever since.
Okay, but the county has clearly benefited from this. I mean, this is really clear, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, the county's probation department was sending people there to get clean. The program's residents also grow fruits and vegetables and gather eggs from chickens. Remember, they are on farmland. So the center donates a portion of the food that it generates to local homeless ministries and food banks.
Yeah. Okay. So it's positive. It's helping the community. It's not taking away from the community. It's helping people with problems that can lead to more problems and crime if they're not dealt with, as far as addictions, drug, alcohol addictions. Sounds like it's going great. So why has the center run into problems with Clackamas County?
Well, as I mentioned, the center's property is on what the county considers high-value farmland. The state of Oregon has declared that new churches are not an allowable use on high-value farmland. The county has thus told the center that it cannot approve the center's proposed use of its property, even if it wants to.
Okay, but just to make it clear, there is no danger or risk at all to the people living in that county or in that rural community, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, they stay on the campus pretty much full time.
Okay, why is that? Why do they stay on the campus full time?
Basically, so that they can just focus on recovery and focus on Bible study and getting clean, and so they're not getting out into the community and dealing with temptation, and it's by design. They're meant to be kept apart.
Let's talk about the center's residents. Are they in any kind of danger, though?
No. In fact, the center has invited county officials multiple times to inspect the property and see what the center has done to make the property safe for its residents. The center is willing and has the means to make any corrections the county wants it to make, but the county is refusing to work with the center. Essentially, the center has a problem with the center being, the county has a problem with the center being where it's at.
Okay, why is that? Why would they have a problem with that?
Well, the center's property is on what the county deems high-value farmland. The state of Oregon has declared that new churches are not an allowable use on high-value farmland. The county has thus told the center that it cannot approve the center's proposed use of its property, even if it wants to.
Okay, but that's not true, is it? They can't approve it, though, can't they?
Absolutely they can. Under federal law, state and local governments can only prohibit or restrict religious land uses in certain zones where a compelling interest justifies such a restriction. And where state and local laws conflict with federal law, the local laws have to yield under our Constitution's supremacy clause.
Right. I think this is so important, Ray, that people understand this, because there could be churches in any community, anywhere in the country, having difficulties with local government saying, hey, we're not going to let you move here. We're not going to let you be here. We're going to take you should have had a such and such permit. We're going to shut your doors. We've seen this happen, and people need to realize in order for them to do this to a church or a synagogue, the government has to have a real compelling interest, which is the highest level of scrutiny afforded under the Constitution when it comes to these basic civil rights issues. And a church generally has the right to go where it wants to go. We've helped churches move into buildings, move into old movie theaters, move into all kinds of places to do their ministry work. And it's because the government can't show a compelling interest. Compelling is usually like health or safety issues, right? I mean, like, I remember once a church wanted to build their church at the end of a runway of an airport, a several-story building. I mean, I get that. There's a real health and safety issue there. But rarely is there actually a real bona fide health and safety issue to justify keeping out a church. I think this is an example of where there is no compelling state interest at all. And so it looks to me like the church has a very strong case. So tell me, what is the Pacific Justice Institute doing to help this center right now?
Well, PJI is currently working with the center to resolve this issue through proper channels with the county. If that fails and the county still refuses to work with the center, we will sue the county on the center's behalf in federal court.
Yeah. And I think people need to understand the importance of that because, first off, we at Pacific Justice Institute usually get matters resolved at this level. Over 90% of the time, government sees the error of their ways and they do the right thing. That said, if we have to litigate, we have a very high success rate of winning these kinds of cases. We know the Arlupa law, forwards and backwards. We've used it successfully in court multiple times, and I think that's why this county needs to really think very hard and strong about getting this matter resolved and backing off their assault on this fantastic ministry dealing with real issues, helping the community both directly in terms of providing farm goods and resources to the homeless ministry, as well as indirectly in terms of taking people off the street who have addictions, who could be a threat and with regard to crime and other things, and helping their lives be transformed. This is a fantastic ministry, Northwest Bible Training Center folks. We at Pacific Justice Institute are behind them. We're representing them without charge, and we're able to do it because of people out there like you that are supporting our work and enabling great attorneys like Ray Hacke be able to go to the mat and defend this institution. And Ray, if we don't win on the first round, if they don't back off, we're going to file a lawsuit, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you call me the bulldog of the Beaver State for a reason. So I almost want them to do it just so the bulldog will be unleashed.
Well, let's hope that they don't. And but if we have to, we will litigate this. You'll do a great job, as you always do, and we're behind you. And I know that we'll also take this as high as we need to. And we'll pick up all the costs, all the expenses. That's what we do. That's what we're about at Pacific Justice Institute. If you're out there and you need assistance, feel free to contact us. Go to our website, pacificjustice.org or pji.org. pji.org will get you there as well. We'd love to serve you and you, your church, and your community. Well, Ray, keep up the great work and God bless.
Thank you, Brad.
So, folks, there you have it. It's our God-given freedoms we're talking about. Now, let's choose to keep them. I'm Brad Dacus, president of the Pacific Justice Institute. Have a great weekend.